All right. Good morning and welcome to the Utopian Cafe for Thursday, July 8th. I'm doing the math in my head. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, it is Thursday, July 8th. 11 o'clock show today, a little bit later today. In a couple minutes, we're going to bring on the first guest we've had on the cafe, Sal Tartalia. He's going to talk about his new book, World Series Chronology. We'll bring him on shortly. Let's get you some scores from last night in the East and West games. I want to talk a little bit about the Brewers and Mets. They were rained out a couple of days ago, had a doubleheader yesterday. Mets got to Hader in game one. I believe they had a shutout victory in game two. So the Mets take 2 or 3 in that series. Again, I'm always asked, who are you going to root for in this? And it's always going to be the Mets. Obviously, I love the Brewers. I live here in Wisconsin, Grafton. I'm going to see my first game of the year. First baseball game. I'm going to see a Sheboygan Summer League game on Sunday. And probably the only Brewer game I'm going to see this year is going to be when the Mets come back to town at the end of September. Actually, they finished the season at Miller Park, or whatever they're calling it now these days. So very much looking forward to that this weekend. Here's your scores last night from the North and South games. Look at what the White Sox did. 2 days after the Pirates put up 21 on the Marlins, the White Sox put up 23 on the Rangers. Carlton Fisk had, I believe, 5 RBIs in this game. Joe Jackson was 4 for 5 with 7 RBIs. A drubbing there in Arlington. Today's Xbox game is going to be Red Sox at Giants. It's going to come at you at about 5 o'clock today. Really good pitching matchup. Pedro Martinez versus Madison Bumgarner. Each team has taken a game in this series. The first game of the series was special because Mike Yastrzemski hit 2 homers against his grandfather. So they're both going to be in the lineup today. Carl Yastrzemski versus Mike Yastrzemski should be a lot of fun. So without further ado, we're going to bring on our first guest. This is the first guest we ever had in the Utopian Cafe. I want to welcome Sal Tartalia. Sal, good morning.
Good morning. I'm honored to be the first at anything.
You are the first guest we've had in the cafe. We've had guests, informal guests for like the Utopian Baseball Universe Report and After Dark. A lot of times it's just someone texting me saying, "Hey, let me get on camera."
Right.
But we've been planning this now for about a week or two. So if you guys are watching the show or paying attention to what happens within the group on a daily basis, you see Sal a lot. Sal has pre-approval rights to post about World Series Chronology. Sal, tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, the book started as a hobby and avocation. I would just jot things down and I put it in a binder form, and then as it kept going through the years, I've heard this from other people anyway. You should write a book. You should write a book, but it goes in one ear out the other. So when I finally got serious about this, I started this in '86. I started jotting everything down on an old IBM Selectric typewriter, if you can remember. And I made about, it was about a 12-page, intro to what I really wanted to do. And I listed all the years, who won. And before I started adding a lot of details, I just wanted to get the format set. Again, I didn't think of it as a book. I was doing it for my own pleasure. So as things evolved and I started adding things and footnotes and things that you don't really find in a lot of different publications, I began to get serious. And over a couple of years, because I had young children at the time by then, and I worked construction, I get up like 4:30. I had to make time, and I had 1,000 Post-its and loose leaf pieces of paper and little things I cut out from the newspaper and all these things that were relevant to me, or maybe not, but put aside for later. And it took a long time to finally construct this into a binder. Then I took it to a printer, actually Staples first, because it was less expensive. And I made it into a book form, just a basic book. And then I brought it to a printer who enhanced everything. In the beginning, this is a book about every World Series ever played, 116 to date, from starting 1903 to this year. I published this book right before the Nationals won their World Series. So this only goes up to 2018, but I'm getting ready to enhance my website where the people that purchase the book can go to an addendum section where they'll see 2019 and last year's truncated season 2020 World Series and any in the future forthcoming, because I don't want to leave them high and dry just with 2018 when the Sox won.
Sure.
So, but that's down the road for a while. I'm trying to garner some interest and see if it's even worth my while to do this, because it's available on Amazon. I sold about 90 books so far. It's not too bad, but I expected, more success. But I don't have a lot of advertising funds. So, in any event, as I continue to add to this thing and think of it as a book, I would check a lot of things. I do this a lot with my son. And I don't want to sound snotty, but I'll be watching Sports Center and, the talking head will make, other than Neil Everett and Stan Verrett, like they're the two best. I love them. I tape them overnight so I can watch in the morning instead of watching but other than those guys, I have disputed. Somebody would say something about a player and I said, that's wrong. I saw a publication one time and they had a picture of Gary Matthews running the bases. This was Gary Maddox, I'm sorry, running the bases in the 70s when we wore the old-time square hats.
Sure.
And they let us wear the white spikes just for the All-Star game that year, remember? Because we had the bicentennial in Philly. They showed a picture of Maddox, and underneath it, the caption, now this is a book that's supposed to be edited, okay? Gary Matthews takes the lead off second base. I said, that's not Sarge. We didn't even have him yet. So I pride myself, not to sound snotty, on knowing, this is a passion of mine. I don't pat myself on the back for it. I just love it. And It's something I set out to learn. I just watched and played, and from my dad and all, it just is inherent inside me. So I turned it into a book, and I couldn't find an agent because of, I'm a published author now, but I'm working on my second project, which is not sports related, by the way. But I finally got this on Amazon. And it's not doing too poorly, but I don't know if you can see the cover, but
here we go.
It's called World Series Chronology, and the subtitle is Compare, Contrast, and Coordinate the Champions. And the reason I put that in is because, like I said, other reference books that you may want to see with regard to who won a World Series and what year and whatnot, and the guy's batting average against a certain pitcher, you can find all that information in the Baseball Encyclopedia if it was still published. A lot of people may be aware that I forget the other brother's name, but David Cohn was one of the authors, and they retired in 2005 was the last edition. So you can find a lot of the material in that book. For instance, the Yankees hold the record for 5 straight World Series championships, 1949 to 53. They also did it 4 times, but because it's the same franchise, I'm not talking about teams, I'm talking about franchises. So they did it 5 times. They hold the record. The closest franchise to come close to that is the Oakland A's in 72, 3, and 4. Now, in the encyclopedia, you can garner this information on page maybe 870 and then again 1120. Whereas in my book, I did all the research for the reader. It's very convenient, and they can go and see this information on the same page, jumps right off the page for them. But I don't just list those 2 guys. I list every consecutive champion, which there are not many. It's a tough thing to do, to repeat. So I list all that on the meat of the book in section, I think it's chapter 8, the dubious and glorious. And I list a lot of things. It's a lot of interesting, weird things you're never going to find in another book. For instance, I have a section called managerial hierarchy. And what I did was I listed Ned Hanlon, who coached John McGraw in the 1880s. Okay. McGraw wound up becoming a man. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me retract. Ned Hanlon won 3 straight pennants, and he managed the Baltimore Orioles of the old National League, the Baltimore Orioles. When he left to go to the Brooklyn franchise, John finished playing his career, became player coach, and then eventually went to the Giants, where he won 4 straight pennants, breaking Ned Hanlon's record. Casey Stengel, who played for McGraw, wound up becoming a manager and won 5 straight pennants. Billy Martin, who played 4, Stengel, won 3, although they gypped them out of 78. They fired him before they went to the series. So it's like almost a biblical thing. Hanlon begat McGraw, who begat Stengel, who begat Martin. It's a weird thing that, again, I'm so proud of this because you're never going to, I mean, you could garner this information. You spend a week in the encyclopedia or other baseball dedicated books, and you could probably become aware of this information. But all this jumps right off the page. I did all of it for the reader, and it's and I dedicated a chapter. The last chapter 10 is how the World Series championship affects the city that the team represents. And every year I used this 1970s, but for some reason I couldn't find this information anywhere. So I called all the chambers of commerce, like Pittsburgh, Oakland, Cincinnati, all the people in the 70s who were winning, and nothing was digitized then. So they couldn't send me any information, but they welcomed me to come. It's all archived. Come and get it and copy it. But I didn't have the money or the time to be traveling and all. So I said, well, you know what? On a hunch, just let me take the present situation. And I took 2000 to 2009. And with respect to all the same teams, when they won the title, the next year their crime rate dropped dramatically, including violent crime. Murder, rape, every year with the exception of 2004. And what's the word I'm looking for? We can make an exception for Boston because, it's like they were never there. Well, it was 86 years. And the way they got there, so they went nuts. Their crime scene didn't spike, but it didn't have an effect where it lowered. So If you look at chapter 10, it shows you every year and every team and how their relative crime rates go down. So there's a lot of little oddities that I call the meat of the book. And we explained this earlier, and there was one thing about how the 1911 World Series was delayed for 6 days because of rain, and it took 86 years for that record to be broken in 1989, and it was 3,000 miles across the continent, and we had an 11-day delay due to an earthquake, but it involved the same 2 franchises because by then New York Giants had become the San Francisco Giants, and naturally the Philadelphia A's became the Oakland A's. So that dubious record followed those same 2 teams almost 100 years later across the country. One little odd thing about 60, and this is just because I'm a fan and it means a lot to me. A lot of guys might think it's weird, but 1960, the Yanks outscored the Pirates, I think 57-11 or something like that. And the Pirates, every time they won a game, it was like 2-1, 3-2, until the finale, of course. And the Yanks were just banging Pittsburgh to death, 12-0, 10-1. So here comes game 7. So the game's tied at 9. Bill Mazeroski comes to the plate. He wears number 9. The game's in the 9th inning. And it becomes the only finale, game 7 finale, walk-off, winner take all World Series. Because Joe Carter's doesn't count. It was game 6. But yeah, not all those 9s. I mean, it's kind of weird. And, some people might look at it and go, who cares about that? But I did this as a passion. And it turned out other people said, you know what? Other people would like this stuff too. So they're not all like odd, weird things that I just like. They're really meaningful things. So if you have a question about any of it, ask me. Maybe I can give you a little insight.
This is the kind of stuff that I would probably binge. Like I would probably open this book and like have an idea that I'll read a couple pages a night, and I'd probably whip through it in like a day and a half because this is the kind of stuff.
It's an easy read. I really wouldn't call it a story. It's more of for lack of a better way of saying, it's like a coffee table book.
Yeah.
But it's not just stats. There is some reading, but it's not a story. Like I don't tell you about Babe Ruth and the whole. I just give you the highlights, so to speak. But there are details. They're just not as extensive. It's only 117 pages.
But everything that you're mentioning so far is stuff that would fascinate me as a baseball fan, and I think even a casual fan, I think this would be a good book to kind of learn the history of the World Series.
Oh, absolutely.
Sal, do you have a favorite World Series?
A favorite? Well, of
Yeah.
course, I'm a homer, so I'm going to say 2008. And it took a lot to say that because 1980 being number one and Schmitty's my guy, you know. But that team was just so magical, and they should have won in 2009 too. And I think if Hamels pitched a little better, had a little better attitude, I think he'd be sick too with the flu or something. But we could have come back two up, coming home.
Yeah.
So, not that mattered. Atlanta did the same damn thing one year, and then they wound up. Christ, they were in the sixth inning of Game 4, or no, Game 3, getting ready to go up 3-0 at home, and Jim Leyritz, who? Yeah, Jim Leyritz turns into Babe Ruth. So they win that game, and then he went on and won 4 straight. So winning 2 in New York did Atlanta absolutely no good. It pained me to see it.
What, in your opinion, is so 2008's your favorite series? What, in your opinion, is the greatest World Series ever played?
Well, there's 2 ways to answer that, and I'm going to say 67 for this reason. When I was in 5th grade, my teacher, Mr. Blanford, give a shout out to Paul Howell, he brought a television set into the classroom so we could watch because you remember there were all day games back then.
Yeah.
And kids couldn't see the World Series. I mean, they could on the weekend, but kids on the weekend, they weren't staying home. They were out in the park or whatever. So this was the first World Series. Now, I was a baseball fan, and I watched baseball games, and I had been to baseball games, but this was the first World Series I got to watch. And I'm enamored with the postseason, whether my team's in it or not. Naturally, I'd love for them to be in it, but I still pick on to somebody, and I root for, or somebody I hate, root against, whatever. I mean, I have a very deep interest. That's why I published a book about the topic. But I'm going to say 67 because it was a 7-game thriller. It was the first one I got to witness. And, you couldn't ask for more. I mean, that goes down as one of the most closely competitive series of all time. So I'm going to say that. But based on just no emotional attachment to the 72 and 75 series with the Reds winning 1 and losing 1. They both went 7 games. I think 5 of the 7 games, the 72 series, the Reds lost to the Oakland A's. I think 5 of those games, I can look it up in my book, but I don't want to cheat. They were 1-run affairs. 2 of them were extra innings. And then in 75, it was even better. I think 5 of them were run games. 3 were extra innings. Game 6 with Fisk hitting the home run. What quotes came from that series? Carlton Fisk said after, we won that series 3-4 because it seemed like they won when he hit that series, the homer in Game 6. The Game 7 was almost anticlimactic. And Sparky Anderson was talking to Bill Spaceman Lee, the pitcher from the Sox, right, before Game 7. And Sparky, the Reds manager, says to Bill, before game tonight, no matter who I put on that mound is going to the Hall of Fame. Oh, no. He said, no matter who I put on that hill tonight, after the game, he's going to the Hall of Fame. So Bill Lee thought about it for a minute, and he said, no matter who you put on that hill tonight, after the game, I'm going to Elliott's Lounge. Typical spaceman Bill Lee. What a great quote.
Sal, where can we find the book?
It's listed on Amazon. I should have took a picture of the page, but you know what? When I post, I can do that. Because this is what it'll look like. This is how it shows up on the page.
All right.
My name's on the bottom, and of course a little highlighting in the back with my picture and a little intro about me. And it's on Amazon.com, and I can actually. It's a shame I thought about this too when I was exercising, then I got sidetracked. The link that I post when I post that daily, every day, when I share my website, to my Facebook pages, to your page, to Twitter, Instagram, I'm all over. I just tap the link and it shows up. I should have thought to do that today, but I don't think we could have did that on the show because this is a live broadcast. But I can send that to the readers if they're interested later. Or
Yeah, and actually, and what I've done is I've scheduled at about 11:30, so in about 10 minutes or
yeah.
so, I'm going to put a link up to the Amazon that'll take you right to your book.
Oh, so you had right. Okay, so you already have the thing that I'm trying to post.
Yeah, so
Great.
everyone's going to see it, and that's going to go to the group. So about 950 people will have access to that in about 10
Thank you
minutes.
so much. Oh man, that's great.
So you said you're working on something else non-sports
Yeah, I'm doing.
related right now.
This is a story. This is basically based on my life, but it starts before I was born. Memories I have, things that people told me about my dad before I was even born. That's how it starts. He's on Guam, which, as you know, was in his day was an outpost. There was nothing there, so it's pretty good. I don't want to get into it because there's a lot of anecdotes and some comedy and whatnot. But yeah, it's based in truth, and you know. For copyright infringements and whatnot, everybody's name is slightly different, but they know who they are. you know. Now, if they want to sign a release or I'm not encumbered legally at all, I'll go back because I wrote down every page they're listed on. I'll have to go back and just change it. It's easy to do on the computer. You just highlight the name and it goes back. But it's a story of my life and the ups and downs. Actually, writing this book's going to be part of it because this took place in a portion of my life, where I was still very active and athletic. So, and I'm about halfway done. I just started chapter 19. And, like a lot of youths, I mean, I've had some pitfalls. So there's going to be some shock value in this book. And I just hope people are ready for it and don't want to judge me because it's not where you start, it's where you wind up. Sure. And I am so proud of the fact that even though it doesn't sell a lot, I am in the Library of Congress, Joe. So my name will live in posterity. 100 years from now, when somebody looks and says, how do you say this name? Salvatore Tarantula, Tartaglia. I mean, I get it all, right? But at least they'll see it in Washington.
Yeah, it's great. Now, I wrote a book in 2008 that I released on March 2nd, 2009. And at least once a year on Facebook, I just post my ISBN number.
Right.
And then people say, like, what the heck's that?
Right.
And then I send them a link to my book. And I actually sell copies that way just by answering that one little question.
Thank you for that. Because I thought, I don't want this thing. But see, I'm ready to update my website. I want to do it after I'm able to. Anybody that purchases it is privy to all the World Series going forward. I don't want to leave them high and dry. But in the meantime, yeah, every once in a while, just to remind people, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Sal, will you come back on the show after this year's World Series?
Absolutely. If you want me to, sure. Because I'll have something posted in my website that would have been in this book. If I'm not going to publish this every year. I mean, this is a life's work. I'm on to the next one. But I'm trying to find an agent, and I'm in touch with a few people that, as with you, that I'm in touch with through baseball pages, and they've given me links and all. So I'm putting proposals together now for that second story. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, this World Series thing takes off. I don't know if you're familiar with Ray Didinger from Philadelphia News. He's a Hall of Fame writer, but his forte is football, but he does all sports. So I met him, handed him a copy of the book. He was actually able to help me, passed it on to Temple University Press. They looked at it and respectfully declined, but at least they took a look at it. But Ray's a football guy. And my initial thing with this book was to make a series, MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL. Now, I still may get around to that. Who knows? But right now, I'm involved in this second work, and it's probably going to take another few months to finish that. So I'll get around to it later. But yeah, absolutely. After the World Series or whenever, Joe, feel free. You've done so much for me with this. In my limited scope, if there's anything I can do for you, don't feel ashamed to ask.
I appreciate it, Sal. So we're going to have Sal on again after the World Series. When your second project is available, we'll definitely have you on again to talk about that.
Sure.
So one last thing I want to do before we go off the air is I'm just going to throw out a year, and you give me your thoughts on that series.
Okay.
All right. So you said this project started in '86.
I started in '86, but it goes from 1903 to the present.
Let's talk 1986.
Okay, 1986, the Mets, as they are wont to do, are the luckiest team in the major leagues. I know you're a Mets fan, Joe, and I won't hold that against you. But you gotta respect Philly and Mets. We're like mortal enemies. I respect the Yankees, But if they never win another game or series again in life, that's fine with me. But the Mets, I dislike. I do. I really do. It's a shame because a lot of their play, especially now, and not to sound biased, but they have so many Italians on their team. So it's hard not to like them now. And I'm not going to lie. If we don't make it and they're still standing because, Nemo and all the other guys that are my countrymen, I might look out for. But 86, Boston, as you know, should have won that series. We're not going to blame Bill Buckner. He should have never been in the game at that late stage. But it's weird because 86 was the fourth time since 1918 that the Red Sox, after selling Babe Ruth, were able to get to a World Series. And every time they got to a World Series, I believe it was 46, 67, 75, and 86. They were all 7-game affairs, and they were all lost on some odd occurrence. So the curse of the Bambino did, in fact, exist until 2004 when Poppy and them finally put it to rest. So 86, yeah, the Mets won a tremendous. Now, and to give them credit, they came back in Game 7 and destroyed Boston. Boston, they were out of it, but mentally they couldn't even fight. But that's a game that should have never been played. Game 6 should have been the clincher. But thanks for asking. I hope I helped you. And I know you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Once again, little plug here for the Mets.
Yeah.
Well, again, Sal, thanks for being on the show today. Speaking of the Red Sox, we're going to have them on Xbox today. 5 o'clock Central, Red Sox at Giants is our Xbox game stream today.
How do I do that? I don't really have Xbox. My son does, and I'm sure he could school me, but I could never chime in and see you unless I go on Xbox. Is that correct?
Actually, so what I do is these game streams actually stream live to the Facebook group.
Oh, okay, good. So I have been seeing your stuff then. Okay.
Yeah, so you should get like an alert that'll say Joey is live, and we do one of these a day. Some days we do 2.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going to do Red Sox Giants at 5. It only takes a half hour to simulate. So, on the schedule, I have it as, a 3 o'clock game. But I figure if I started at 5, it would end pretty much the same time it would end, like a major league game.
Right.
That way I can get ready for, dinner and, the Brewers game tonight.
And how did the grandson hit a home run off of Carl? Is Carl pitching in that simulated game?
No, so the way the Utopian Baseball universe works is each day I create lineups for each teams.
Right.
And then I have a random number shuffler that pulls a date from history.
Oh.
And then I take all those games from that day and I hit shuffle so that the results map into my schedule.
Okay.
And just coincidentally, and none of this is rigged because the Mets are in 7th and the Brewers are in 8th place.
Right.
It just so happened that the right fielder for the home team in the game that was mapped into the Red Sox Giants game hit 2 homers.
Wow.
And that was Mike Yastrzemski. So I think just fate had it.
Right. That's great. Yeah. That's great.
He could have, if I would have hit shuffle a different way, or if it mapped out a different way, he could have went 0 for 6.
Yeah, right.
Or the Red Sox could have won that game big. But it just so happens that Mike hit 2 homers. I believe one of them was off Christy Mathewson.
Wow.
No, I take it back. Smokey Joe Wood.
Okay.
Because he's teammates with Mathewson. I think he hit one off Wood, and then I think he hit the second one off. I'd have to look at it again, but it was a reliever because Mathewson and Wood each went 7 innings.
Wow.
And Yastrzemski's second homer was in the 8th inning. So
that must bring you joy, which is great because you bring a lot of people joy with this. So when you stumble on something that's got to be like a toy for a kid, it's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So today in the Red Sox Giants game, Carl Yastrzemski is going to be in the lineup for the Red Sox. Mike Yastrzemski is going to be in the lineup for the Giants, and that'll be a lot of fun.
He's just beating his father. He didn't hit the home runs off Carl. That's the way I took it. I must have misread it.
Yeah, and I probably should have worded it differently, but he was basically they were in the same lineup against each other, so that's what I was trying to say.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Kind of like a Griffey thing.
Yeah, we actually, it's funny because I have Ken Griffey Sr. on the Reds Utopian roster, and I have Griffey Jr. on the Mariners.
Ah,
and
wow.
when they played each other last year,
Yeah.
it wasn't the same thing, but I think they each had like an RBI double.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting too. So again, I want to thank Sal Tartalia for being on the Utopian Cafe today. We're going to be back at our normal time tomorrow, 7 a.m. We'll get you a preview for the weekend. For the Utopian Baseball Universe, this is Joey Buchholz saying goodbye. And thanks again, Sal.
Joey, I appreciate it. And remember, I won't be able to chime in for a couple days.
That's all right. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Thanks again. Have
All
a
right.
good day.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.